Okay, so my name's Vima Punde. I'm the program manager from the Surgical MedTech Cooperative. I think what I'll do is I'll just give a brief introduction to what we do. I'll ask people to introduce themselves, and then I think we can have that informal discussion. So for those that already know the introduction, yeah, you're going to be bored to death for the next 2 minutes. But for everybody else, it's probably new stuff. So the Surgical MedTech Cooperative, we are funded by the Department of Health, which funds the National Institute for Health and Care Research. And yeah, we are funded to support anyone who's developing a medical technology or device to develop that, to evaluate it, to test it in a clinical context. And hopefully we should aid in that process to getting it out to the market. So the market in this case is the NHS. So that's what we are really there to do. And part of that involves getting patient and public input into the development of the devices and technologies, particularly if the companies or the startups want you to use these devices. It's actually very important that people are able to do that, which is one of the things that we do as a Surgical MedTech Cooperative through our MedTech focus groups, where we invite companies to talk about their products. And we're able to give feedback. So that's a very brief introduction, but you'll definitely have an opportunity to ask questions. So this is an informal chat. I'm not here to do death by PowerPoint or anything along those lines. So we want to keep this free flowing. So what I'll do is I will sort of ask people to introduce themselves. I'll ask our current PPI members to introduce themselves, and then I'll go to the other members on the call on the order that they show on my screen. So if we start with you, Julie, could you introduce yourself and just obviously tell us a bit about your work with PPI?
Yes, thanks. My name is Julie Hepburn, and I'm one of the PPI group for the Surgical MedTech. And I'm also the lay lead research partner for the Wales Cancer Research Centre as well. I started my PPI work about 8 years ago, and the first opportunity that I had was then to review a funding proposal for bowel cancer research from the NIHR. And it's a really good place to start off, because they do give you a lot of help on what your role is, what you should be looking for. So it's quite well structured and a good place to start. And since then, I've done a large number of research reviews for them on both drugs and also innovations and implants and things like that. But they're always relevant to your own experience, either as a patient or a carer. And so if you do sign up to the NIHR, you tell them a bit about your experience, and then they offer you things that are relevant to what you actually know what you're talking about. I've also sat on a funding panel for Health and Care Research Wales. So you're looking at it then, you're perhaps getting the reviews in from people like us, the PPI people, and that helps you and make your decision on what's going to be funded. I've learned a lot along the way about doing reviews and about how not to make mistakes and losing all your work when you're working on one of these online systems, and all about sort of, how to do it faster and better, and how to approach something that's 50 pages long and be able to sort out what the relevant bits are that you really need to use. So I'd be very happy to share my experiences with you tonight, anything you want to know, but it'll be good to know what you're know tonight, our attendees, and whether you've had a lot of experience or some experience or no experience, because that will help us. Okay, I'll hand over to Philip.
Sorry, V, you're muted, so I wasn't sure who you were asking to speak.
Yeah, no, it's you. Julie handed over perfectly to you. Sorry for that.
Okay, sorry, I didn't. Well, you're on mute, so slap the wrist. Yes, I'm Philip Bell, folks. I've been at this game now, PPI, for lots of years. I've sat on funding panels for all the NIHR programs. And as you learn, there are several different programs attacking several different research aspects. So researchers apply for funding for one of those funding panels. So I've sat on those, which is really quite interesting. And as Julie said, it's a question of, applying to sort the chapter of the week when you're reading it as a layperson. So Healthcare Research Wales, I sat on funding panels there, I've sat on selection boards. I sit on 3 trial steering committees down there in Wales, all on cancer, at the Cancer Central Balindra Hospital. I sit here up in Leeds. I keep saying I sit, I don't actually, because I'm here at home, and I think most people stay at home these days and, talk into this machine. I'm in London on the NIHR projects in terms of early diagnosis of cancer. ECMC at Liverpool, which is the early cancer medical trials and so forth. So it's a very broad experience. Nice committees, public panel member of the MRC. So lots and lots of background, and very difficult to put it succinctly into a bit that you can understand. So hopefully I'm here to share, here to have comments, all positive, I hope. So I look forward to hearing from you as the evening goes on.
Thank you, Philip. And finally, Deborah. So Deborah is one of the newest members of the PPI group in terms of being new to the PPI area. So it's also interesting to hear her perspective of what involvement looks like. So Deborah, if you could unmute and introduce yourself and just give a bit of background about how you've been finding it. Hi, Deborah, can you hear us? This time I'm not muted. No, she might have just stepped away from that.
Are we all introducing ourselves, or just a few people?
No,
would you like me to introduce while we're waiting for Deborah? Just give Deborah a bit of time.
Yes,
Hello, hi everyone. I'm Hamid Khan, and I always enjoy our sessions that we have. It's a shame it's only an hour, but it's always great to get updates and our future. It's great because I'm seeing myself developing, growing. Every session I come, I always learn something new. And also, I think last time we touched upon equality, diversity, and inclusion, and I was saying to V that we need to think about it and what we can do around PPI. So I'm really kind of excited about the future and thinking that I'm kind of curious how and which way I'll get involved and in what shape. So really excited about coming into the unknown and hoping that great stuff's going to come out of it. Thank you. I'll pass it back to, thank you.
Thank you, Hamid. I think we'll come back to that as a discussion point. We'll let everybody else introduce, and then we can have a good discussion around that. Deborah, when you're available, please let us know. In the meantime, I'll go to Cher.
Hi, I'm Cher. This is my first time doing this forum. My background is that I'm an IHR dentist, but I have an interest in research, particularly microbiology, and I'm starting a new project and I want to involve some PPI in it, and I've been looking for information on PPI and how to set it up, and I've come across this and thought it would be a good idea just to see what the discussions are like, and hopefully guide me. This discussion will help guide me in preparing for my own PPI, the one that I'm organizing.
Okay, no, that's interesting. That's good. Well, welcome, and thank you for that. Hayley. We can't hear you. You might need to check your audio settings for your microphone. No. Or if you can't figure it out, try coming out and coming back in. Sometimes it sorts that out.
Hayley, you got two options. You can sign in and sign out, or you can go into your settings and come off the microphone and go on to, because I don't think you're using a microphone. You need to go on speakers. It seems like she can't hear us either. I think it's both ends.
Yeah, I'll send her a message. Thanks, Hamid. In the meantime, Mo?
Has Deborah introduced herself or not yet?
No, not yet. I'll come back
Okay.
to her because she hasn't flagged that up yet. So Mo?
Hi, everybody. And say hello to Hamid as well. We've met each other on quite a few sessions, I think. Now, good to hear from you, Hamid. My name's Mo from the Northwest, Manchester. I'm an actual carer for my son. He's 29 years old, but he's very small, 29 years old. He's got a lot of complex health issues. I've got a lot of health issues now, looking after him over these decades. And basically my PPI is helping out with, I started off helping out with a group involved in a university and a hospice, and that's grown on to working with other charities and communities as well. I have done some PPI work with my local NHS group that I live in nearby here, and we've got to the sense that I'm in and out of Zooms, etc., and it's more of a lived experience panel now. It's our lived experience partners now rather than PPIs. People are wording it in different ways, really, you know. So I think my experience is to learn whatever I can, and I have accidentally bumped into this today because I'd seen an email that I didn't actually get hold of, and I've missed, and I've not even put it in my diary because it has loads of my son's kind of work and stuff in it, you know, like his appointments and stuff. But it's absolutely great to be here, and I'm glad I've hopped on. I know it's only the hour, so I'll keep quiet now. But it's just a chance for me to kind of present myself for anybody that's wanting to have any lived experience. I know we've mentioned dentistry at the moment and stuff there, but it's nice to kind of gauge as to how we can help people and how we can get more involved, really, you know. So that's my kind of inspirations for now, and thank you for having me.
Again, thank you, Mo, and it's good to see you again. Hayley, shall we try you again? No, she's still not able to use a microphone. Okay, so she'll use the chat. Okay, that's fine, Hayley. You type in the chat box for now. We'll go to CJ. It says CJ on my screen.
Hi, hi, I'm Claire. Hi, Hamid. I know Hamid, and I think I've met Mo before as well. I work as a public contributor, have a lot of health issues, service user, mental and physical health. I'm also a carer for my 97-year-old grandmother. And I have two children who are now 21, in fact 22 today, and 18, both of whom have autism, and one also has ADHD. And yeah, work as a public contributor within healthcare settings.
Okay, thank you for that. Deborah, you're saying it was busy and is it still busy and noisy? Because it would really be good for others to hear the perspective of someone who's quite new to it. If possible, we'll be able to bear with the noise for a couple of minutes.
Hello?
Yes, yeah, we can hear you.
Yes, it's quite noisy here, but I'm Deborah. I'm new to PPI. I have joined a few meetings.
And what's your experience been so far as someone who's new to PPI?
My experience has been positive so far. Lots of information, lots of handouts, meetings at good times when I'm available. And there's a lot of input from previous members, people who've been PPI members longer than I have.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. So I guess we'll sort of just have an informal chat. Is there anyone who's got any burning questions they want to ask to start off with, so that we can follow that up? I mean, I can start off Hamid's point around the work that's going to be done around equality, diversity, and inclusion, which I can definitely tell you is very high on the NIHR's agenda. It's something that we're looking at working with community organizations on. So we're obviously not going to do that ourselves, because we do recognize that the skills and the expertise sit elsewhere. So it would be interesting if anyone's got any thoughts around that equality, diversity, inclusion bit, whilst we're on that topic that Hamid started. Unless Hamid, you want to come back in and sort of elaborate on that.
Hello, V.
Hi, Manoj.
Apologies, I've just got back from Leeds.
No, it's okay.
I missed much.
No, we've just finished introductions. So Manoj is another one of our PPI members. So this is a quick one, and we'll go back to the discussion.
So everyone that's here today, are we all PPI members, or some of us are just participants?
I mean, I'm not sure about Haley, but I think most people are contributors in some way, shape, or
Oh, good. That's nice. I just wanted to I was going to be, that's brilliant. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so
Apologies all, I've had a mad dash to get back from Leeds. A massive 20-odd minute walk from Staley Bridge to Ashton-under-Lyne by foot.
no,
So
we're
sorry.
glad to have you. So quick
What can I
intro.
do today? What are we discussing today, V?
We've just done the introductions. I mean, the main topic for today is around funding applications.
Okay.
Yeah, so, but we're gonna just, if people have got any questions around that, we're gonna do the free flow. So Hamid, for example, it started off with a topic around EDI, equality, diversity, and inclusion, and how we can make, obviously introduce that to PPI and, start looking at how we can improve sort of involvement opportunities along that front. So that's where we had got to.
Do you want me to add anything now? Because I
Yeah, you
review
can.
lots
Yeah,
of
go ahead,
applications.
yeah.
Well, this weekend, I've just reviewed 2 full grant applications for the RDS. That's the Research Design Service. That's the organisation within the NHS that supports researchers to start the initial application. So they provide £350 grant pre-funding for PPI involvement. And one of the things as assessors we look at in that initial application and the plain English summary and the PPI section is obviously PPI involvement, but also how genuine PPI is, and also what Hamid has just talked about, EDI, equality, diversity, and inclusion. So to what extent have researchers gone out of their way to make sure that the population they plan to recruit in terms of any clinical trials, for example, is representative of the population they seek to represent? So yes, it is a very important topic.
Yeah, thanks for that. Haley, are you able to unmute now?
I think so.
Yay, we can hear you. Finally.
It's just Zoom. My laptop does not like Zoom
Oh,
at
sorry.
all. Every time I go on Zoom, I struggle.
Yeah,
So I've missed everything apart from a few introductions at the start. Sorry.
yeah. No, that's fine. If you could just introduce yourself and just tell us a bit, about your background or your interest. If you've got any
Yeah.
questions. Yeah.
So my name is Hayley. I live in the northeast of England, up in Hexham in Northumberland. I have been doing PPI work for about just past 2 years now. I started just as we sort of went into COVID because of my experience of that in my family. I've been busy on and off since. I'm currently on a NIHR Funding Committee, and I did a nice committee up until June this year. And I do a variety of ad hoc sort of things, as probably a lot of you do, just sort of bits that interest me or that go with my experience. I'm also a lay examiner, and I sit on a couple of ethics committees for a university, not that's local to me, and the Royal College of Veterinary Surgeons. So that adds a different perspective, because let's just say they're behind.
Well, we think
Oh,
we're
yeah.
behind, but yeah, that's interesting to know.
Don't move now.
Seems Hayley's very experienced as a public contributor.
Yeah, definitely.
I've tried to keep fairly busy with it because I really enjoy it. I think I was quite lucky that I started working with NIHR quite early, because they are a really good organisation to work with. You know, the whole onboarding and support and training, it makes you feel valued, that they put so much effort into making sure that you can contribute. And I've really liked that aspect of the work. So that's yeah, it's a good place to be, I think.
Well, that's reassuring to hear that you've been looked after. That's ideally what we want to hear. Yeah, because I think it has come a long way. I think the NIHR is really prioritizing it. We still have to drag a few organizations into the 21st century when it comes to payments and things like that. But yeah, we do our utmost best within the limitations that we have.
I spoke to somebody last week, and they said that they think EDI is where PPI was 10 years ago. And I was wondering if that was other people's thoughts on here. When, is it Hamid mentioned earlier that was an area of interest?
Mm-hmm. Anyone want to jump in so I'm not doing all the talking? That EDI is where PPI was 10 years ago. Any thoughts on that? Julie?
Yeah. Yes, I think you're right. I think it's sort of, in the last year or two, it's become a really big focus for everyone, but nobody's got the solutions. And I was at an interview this week for ECMC funding panel, and there were 5 of us went up to present on this. And one of the questions was on access for underserved populations. And it's all about, really, we know there are these underserved groups out there, but we've first of all got to make contact with them and engage them so they know about research, if we're wanting them to take part in the research. But then there are the problems of, once you've got them interested, how can you make it easier for them to attend? And in Wales, we have this problem. There's a great big rural bit in the middle where people would have to travel a long way, spend a lot on transport to get to research. But when I was preparing for this interview, I looked up, I knew that access and EDI was going to come up. And so I looked at all the sort of major bodies, you know, and their statements of intent for Cardiff, for Cancer Research UK and NCRI and NIHR, and absolutely everyone has got it in their statement of intent that they're going to improve this. But it's difficult to reach these underserved groups, and it's no good just sending out lots of emails and inviting them to engagement events, because they won't come, because you've actually got to get in there face to face. And I heard a PPI speaker the other day, and she was saying, you've got to get an invitation in there. You've got to get to know somebody in these groups so that they actually invite you in to talk to them, rather than just sort of sending out things across the ether to them. So yeah, I think we are really behind, and everyone's trying to solve the problem, and nobody's come up with the magic bullet yet. But we're working with other groups, because like our ECMC group, we can't do it on our own, this going out to individuals. But if we work with other PPI groups in South Wales from the Medical School or the Centre for Trials Research and Health and Care Research Wales. Perhaps together we can split up the job and come to a solution for all of us, rather than everyone trying to solve it individually. I think that's the answer. So I'll shut it now.
Anyone
Billy,
else
what
want to
I'd
come
like
in?
to add, in addition to what Julie's just said, which is all correct, is that the academic researchers have to make a deliberate attempt to go out of their way to make sure that EDI takes place. And the easiest thing by default is not to do that. It's so easy just to engage with people that are already within their network, that people they're already familiar with. You know, and I think most of us will admit that once we've built up a network with PPI work, we will get repeat business because of people we know, you know, as opposed to the researchers going out of their way to get people of different ethnicities, race, gender, age. It's so easy to rely on people you've already used before and you have good relations with.
Yeah, thanks for that. And Philip, before I come to you, I think that's an important point, because it's not just I think when we think of EDI, we always think of the usual suspects, which tend to be race, gender, age, but then you've also got things around neurodivergent populations, where, most people are probably not going, unless you work in mental health, you wouldn't know how to get in touch with people who look after, for example, people suffer from ADHD or autism or some mechanism, which means they can't really participate in a lot of the forums that we actually build, because it's, in terms of the stimulus, it's probably not ideal for them. So I think it's actually about widening out, everything and trying to include everybody. But Philip, yeah?
Yeah, I was also going to say that one of the problems in terms of becoming all-inclusive as a panel, if you like, on a funding panel, is the issue of the social side of it. I mean, I sat on the primary care funding panel, and that meant staying every night at Balliol College at Oxford University and having dinner with the other panel members. And I was the only lay person there. So you're having to have dinner, collar and tie. We don't have to, you can dress however you like. But the point is, it is a social team where everybody else around the table have things in common that aren't in common with you. And they're, if you like, in a way, quite frightened of you because they don't want to upset you. So it's a two-way thing. I mean, fortunately, I spent some time in academia, and of course, I spent some time in the Royal Air Force at various dinners and things like that. So it wasn't an issue with me, but I can imagine it would be quite frightening for some people, wondering, if you like, which knife and fork to use, which wine to drink, etc., etc. And I don't mean that, if you like, sillily. For some people, that would be absolutely nerve-wracking. So if they wanted to do that sort of work, then, but we don't show that at all, do we? We talk about being members of these panels, but even at coffee break, when you all circle around and you got cups of coffee and a biscuit, there's chat going on. So anyway, it's something that one should be aware of, and I think in training, we should consider that aspect of the social aspect and the fact that, you're going to be part of that team. My problem.
No, thanks, Philip. And that's an important point. And it's not a silly point, because even when I go to some of these surgical things, I also wonder about which fork to use first and which spoon needs to be used when, because I only just have 3 utensils and that's just about it. But CJ, keen to hear your views. You'll need to unmute, CJ, if you're talking. No? Any luck, CJ? while CJ is sorting herself out, I mean, Hayley, you've put in yet an invite an examiner's
Oh,
dinner.
I'm on again. Sorry,
Oh.
carry on. Hayley, do what you need to do. I'll come back. I'll leave
No,
my
no,
mic.
I'm fine.
Yeah, no, I was just reading Hayley's comment out, which said most people, where the dress code was only given for men, and most people were surgeons. And yeah, trust me, I work with the surgeons, and it is very, very male dominated. Even the conversations are very, very male dominated. And touching on to Philip's point, when you start to look at socializing, then the events obviously center around things that are typically associated with male social events, you know, like going for a drink and not having childcare problems, for example. So they can go out at any time, you know, they can schedule a meeting for 8, but most of the female surgeons probably wouldn't, because someone needs to look after the children if there's children involved. So it does run deeper. But yes, CJ, come in.
Yeah, I have quite a different take on it. I don't do those things. I don't partake in that faffery, because that's not what it's all about for me. For me, it's not about being invited to those things and going along. You know, I could choose to do that if I want to. That has no interest to me whatsoever. I can't think of anything worse. I would have no problem doing it. My background was in one of the world's largest companies, and I regularly had to do that kind of thing. And for me, that isn't what PPI is about. For me, it's not about going in and being the red square in a room of blue balls. It's just not about that. It's about putting a different voice into the work that's being done. And I don't think you need to go and schmooze. I don't think you need to do that if you don't want to. And I really feel very, very much that we need to hold our own on this, because we are there for a reason, and you shouldn't feel as though you need to participate in those. And even if you do, you are there as somebody who is different, and it's their issues if they don't welcome you and make you feel comfortable. And I don't have a problem with going, you're not making me feel comfortable, therefore I'll leave. Don't have a problem doing that. I don't tend to take part in free dinners that are offered if you're doing a 2-day meeting. I would much rather go and do my own thing. It's just of no interest. And I know that other people may think that that's the benefit, and people do it for different reasons. But I would kind of say you're there to be different from those people, because that is what you bring to the table. And you it's up to you to hold your own in those situations. And I really appreciate that I feel quite able to do that and to challenge. And I think that the more we can do that, I mean, that's the role for me of PPI to a certain extent, is to challenge. Yeah. And I do understand that to do it on somebody's own territory is harder. But I think that when you can say, can you explain that to me, please? And when you're comfortable going, I'm sorry, I don't understand that. Can you explain that to me again in a way that I can understand? Actually, it makes people think, because everybody speaks in jargon, everybody speaks in language that is shorthand, etc. And for me, it's like calling out something that is inappropriate in behavior. You've got to stand up for it. It's no good kind of going away and going, oh, well, they shouldn't have said that. Call it out. With regard to EDI, I think it's a subject that's really, really close to my heart. But I end up, I'm white, middle class, middle-aged. I'm really sorry, but my profile does not fit EDI boxes when you look at it on the surface. Underneath that, I have 2 daughters, both of whom are neurodivergent, one of whom is in a same-sex relationship. Actually, just because I tick the box that says white, middle-class female doesn't mean to say I don't have insight. Oh, and the same-sex partner is also of an ethnic minority. And I live in Birmingham, which is a pretty culturally diverse and ethnically diverse area. And I do sometimes feel as though I am being judged is too strong a word, and excluded is too strong a word, but it's counting against me, because I feel as though actually I can talk from a different informed point of view, even though I cannot tick the box that says, yes, I am an ethnic minority. Yes, I am neurodivergent, but actually I'm surrounded by it. It's in my life every single day. And, I would say that it's really important that the value of PPI is leverage. So would you rather have somebody who comes to a meeting who ticks the boxes, who contributes nothing other than ticking the boxes and sitting in a meeting? Or would you rather have somebody who comes along and can share experiences, who doesn't tick those boxes? For me, you know, the value would be in the person that can see a wider perspective.
The only
And,
thing is,
you know, I really
need-
do think we have to, you know, we can't kind of go, oh, they're difficult to reach. You know, it's how we communicate. You know, we have to keep asking ourselves. But I think that, I can't remember who it was, I think it might have been Julie said earlier on, you know, these conversations on EDI are going round and round and round and round. You know, there are little groups sitting in their offices, sitting in their Zoom calls, week after week after week, having the same conversations. Nobody's going to crack it because we're all doing it in little silos. And, you know, it's been on everybody's agenda. And actually, we need to do something about it because we can't just keep talking about it. It's getting really, really repetitive.
I
just
think
to
that's
keep
because
talking about it.
diversity is very fluid, isn't it? It's very fluid and it changes.
Yeah.
It's not stagnant. And I think because of that, you know, we need to always be mindful, like now that we're going to have a Ukrainian community, we need to think about that. We've had Syrian communities. And I think that some places are still talking about, when they talk about Black nation, I think it's just about Pakistanis and Jamaicans. They forget that Black community is quite broad and Asian community is quite broad. But I think going forward, I think that there's a space and place for everything. Because yes, it's amazing, like people like Claire, myself, Manoj, and many others, we are quite in-depthly experienced in this area, but then we have got newcomers come in, and that's where you know, we all start somewhere. And I think some of us have started sitting around a table and maybe in the first 6 months ticking a box or, you know, not saying much. But thing is, we've got to keep that momentum, because otherwise we're just going to have same people in every place and we're not going to have growth and room for others. It's about finding a balance of how do we engage with new people, bring new diversity of people, diverse range of people on board. I'm very proud. My mom doesn't speak English. She's not digitally included. However, she's taken part in 2 focus groups where I translated for her. And I was so impressed that in her own language, she's a queen bee and she can fix the NHS in half an hour. That's how great she is. But we never realized that because places do not include her. Places are not suitable for her because language is a barrier, mobility is a barrier, her having a mental health issue is a barrier. But if you actually take her on a one-to-one or even in a focus group where you can speak to her in her own language, you get really surprised how amazing creativity and innovation comes out that works for those communities. So I just wanted to finish on that note. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you both, Hamid and CJ. And I think the point around the narrow scope of EDI, I think that's well taken. I think that's one we recognize, where it's often limited to basically, first and foremost, it's often limited to the color of your skin, and then you start going down the line and ticking other things, you know, whereas we want to look at it in a broader sense and just say, well, actually, which groups tend to be excluded, which groups are experiencing a lot of health inequalities, and they will be all over. There are some white groups experiencing health inequalities. Let's actually do something about that instead of then just, you know, focusing on specific things. And like you said, Hamid, you know, the Black Jamaicans will be different to the Africans, to the Black Africans will be different to Black something else. They've got different issues all.
Yes.
But CJ, maybe in a couple of minutes, but one point I really would be interested in when you're talking about how obviously the dinners and stuff don't phase you, I'd really be interested to know whether you got to that point through experience or you've always come in with, well, actually, I don't need to be here, so I'm not going to fit in. I am actually going to stand out. Was that a gradual process or it was just something?
No, I have an eating disorder. It's very easy. I've had an eating disorder for many, many years. That came about as a result of very significant pregnancy trauma. So I had 1 pregnancy, I then had 4 miscarriages, and then I had a hyperemetic pregnancy that I was hospitalized on intensive care and high dependency and nasogastrically fed for 15 months. And it had a significant impact on my mental health. And yeah, me and food don't get on. So I have no problem at all, you know, kind of going, actually, the dinner's not for me. But I think that that's, you know, I don't reveal that publicly unless I want to do it. Sometimes I do, because it really stops people. And, you know, I'm very comfortable sharing it within this group. There are some places that I wouldn't openly say that. But, you know, I've come to the stage where I just go, do you know what? I'm going to tell you, it's nothing, you know, it's nothing that I need to be ashamed of. It's a mental health condition, and I have to live with it. You know, I cannot tell you how difficult it is to live with that every single day when the world revolves around food. Socialization revolves around food, and you get excluded from things. You know, and we're talking about inclusivity. You know, how many times have I said earlier on in this whole process, when people go, oh, well, you know, we'll meet over lunch, and I'm there going, I can't do that, I can't do that, I can't do that, and I've been excluded. So actually, you know, that's inclusivity as well. And I'm thinking about the Chinese population. You know, the Chinese population in Birmingham, for example, is really big. I see very, very little talk of diversity, including that cultural group as well. It, you know, it tends to focus on certain groups ethnically, and also, you know, things like neurodivergence as well. You know, people don't. I mean, I have ADHD. You know, I don't come on and reveal that to people. I don't kind of go, oh, my name's Claire and I've got this, this, and the other, because actually, you don't necessarily need to know that about somebody. But yeah, to go back to the dinners and things, I have no problem saying no.
Okay, no, thank you for that. No, I was just intrigued to find out, because obviously I think for some people, they might not have that confidence to say that. So I just wanted to see where that was coming from. But thank you very much, CJ. Julie, and then I'll go to Hayley's comment. So Julie?
Yes, when I was doing all this, looking around at the access and the equality and diversity issues, I came across a very interesting paper that people who are interested in this field might want to have a look at, and it's called Promoting Inclusion in Clinical Trials, a rapid review of the literature and recommendations for action. And it's in Methodology 2021. I mean, maybe we can put it on the, you know, somewhere afterwards for people to look up. But it was really good. It was very readable. It looked at the main barriers. It looked at the enablers, and it looked at some various strategies that could be used. Just, you know, being a rapid review, it was pulling it from all the research that had been done. And it pointed out this thing, that it's not just about ethnicity. There's all sorts of other groups that we have to look at. And it just gave some examples like older people, pregnant women, obese individuals, religious groups, you know, and there was a whole list of them. It is broadening it all. And I just thought it was a really interesting thing to read for the lay person, because it wasn't full of jargon and long words you don't understand and things. So yes, I've got that for myself. I'm going to keep that by me with all these, because, you know, having some practical strategies suggested, that's what we need really, rather than all this woolly talk that goes on. What
That's so true, Julie. So true.
Yeah, if you can, if there's a title or something, you can, if you put that in the chat so that those
I'll put it in the chat now, yes, right.
That'd be great, thank you.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
It's so true on the age as well, though, because, you know, age-wise, you can be digitally excluded. You know, I care for my 97-year-old grandmother. She's got views, trust me, she's got views, and she has no problem sharing them, but she wouldn't share them on a forum like this because it's not her bag. You know, and as Hamid says, he translates for his mother, so it's how we facilitate that inclusion and look around and find ways, and we just have to keep asking the questions. But it would be really good to have a think tank pulled together so that everybody can share thinking, because I really do feel like there's one little thing in the middle and everybody's trying to do the same thing and you know, bashing their heads against a wall, really.
Yeah, no, definitely. Mo, I'll come to you in a bit. Hayley, you put down, you know, that even in interventions, you know, they tested on people who speak English, and it actually is, you know, the ethics committees, you know, can actually say, yeah, that's okay to do that, to test on only English speaking people, because you want to get the data and you want to make sure that it's all precise and accurate and things. So, you know, actually that's actually a very huge problem. And I think a whole lot of it also stems from sort of the willingness to pay for proper involvement from some of these communities. You know, I think that's always been the big problem, where everything's got to fit into this neat standard box for typical involvement, but not everyone understands that, you know, things have got to be reimbursed. You've got, you know, people are spending their time doing things. You can't just expect things to be done for free. So that's an interesting point, Hayley.
Do other people here who review find that they see a lot of applications where the PPI person you find is so professional that you think, well, have you still got your feet on the ground? You know, now you are a doctor and now you've got a PhD in it and now you run this charity. Are you as aware of the actual, like what I said in the comments, I go to the dinner because I then haven't got to claim it back. You know, do other people find that they increasingly see that the PPI feels too professional?
Well, Hayley, in my engagement over the last 12 years, I find that like PPI leads, people who work for, let's say, the NHS, people that work for NIHR, different universities, they will have a professional background. But genuine PPI people like myself may or may not be educated, and we drift into PPI world for various different reasons.
Yeah, I think I must just be seeing a bad run of ones where I thought, where's the actual person who recently had the experience of that in their family or themselves and has something different to give because it's new from them?
I think, Hayley, that's a really interesting point, but I think I also look at it in the context of, it doesn't matter what I am with regard to letters after my name. It doesn't matter what, you know, I do in, you know, in previous professional roles or whatever. Actually, illness doesn't discriminate. You know, mental illness and physical illness doesn't discriminate, and you can be the most highly qualified, most highly paid, most professional person, and you can get bowel cancer. You could be somebody who lives on the streets, being completely socially excluded, and have bowel cancer. You know, it doesn't discriminate. And I think that it's really important that lived experience is has integrity. You know, so if you are looking at something, you are looking at it with integrity. I mean, I also think that there's different layers for involvement. I mean, and I would it be interested to see whether other people have also found that, because I think that the people in this group are all fairly experienced PPI people. I'm certainly getting that feel from what people are saying. And, you know, I know that when I started on a really small thing. I mean, I started with a project at King's College looking at COVID dogs, whether or not they could sniff out COVID. That was the first thing I got involved in, because I was so desperate during lockdown to try and do something to help, but, you know, I wasn't able to go out. So I found this study and just thought, okay. And it involved, you know, them sending you a t-shirt and a pair of socks and wearing it for 24 hours and sending it back. And that's how I got involved very first of all. But you then get involved in things that are suitable for you, and you then get involved in things that challenge you if that's what you want. For example, I've just been a co-applicant on something. Oh my God, I cannot tell you how difficult it was. It took hours and hours and hours and hours. The technology, I'm fairly tech savvy. I was on the verge of an anxiety attack trying to do it, you know, and I did come away thinking I had to get help to come and sort it out for me, because I was having to be added as, you know, applicants on this and new accounts setting up on here, and, you know, this system doing and that system doing. And, you know, at one point I did think, why am I doing this? why am I putting myself through this stress? And I'm coming to this as someone who does really understand the benefits of doing it. But I think that, that kind of thing can be really, really off-putting. And I think that it's up to us also to show the scope of the things that you can be involved in, so people can sort of dip their toe in the water and then build a sort of a security and build a knowledge, build a vocabulary at a pace that's right for them. So you might decide to do a little focus group to start with. You might want to do a one-to-one interview. You might feel more comfortable, joining a group, etc. So to show people the range of things, because you don't have to, do everything at the highest level, and I think it's really important. Well, I certainly try and keep my feet in a real spectrum of opportunities, so that I'm doing some that take me right back to the most simple involvement, so answering questionnaires, etc., which take 5, 10, 15 minutes, because actually it broadens my knowledge and means that I can then bring extra knowledge to things that I'm involved in. And as I say, at the other end of the scale, being a co-applicant, which is hard work, was really hard work.
Yeah, I can definitely, I think a few members of our group, they recently worked, Manoj and Julie, recently worked on a funding application that shall remain anonymous.
Yeah.
But I think a couple of them needed to lie in a dark room for days afterwards.
Yeah.
But Mo's had his hand up, so I'll bring Mo in. and then Julie and Manoj can tell you about the experience with that. But Mo, please go ahead. And thank you for waiting.
That's absolutely fine. It's such an interesting listening today. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was just going to comment on the EDI, where there isn't kind of an actual broad kind of definition, really, is there? There's all sorts of kind of equations and things that we can follow. I mean, in my instance, it's a case of I'm a carer for my son who really is very vocal, but he won't be vocal to people that he's spoken to once, twice, 3 times, to kind of thing. He's got his own YouTube thing, he's got his own thing set up, and he's quite kind of vocal in there. But speaking to people in the sense of making change, etc., because he's done that over and over again, it kind of gets too repetitive for him, sort of thing. So for him to cope with that and with his lifestyle of being a person that's quite ill, and he's got a lot of problems with his health, etc., and just looking forward to the next day is kind of like a huge task, really, sometimes. But I think in one instance, one example that I can give is that because he's a long-term health issue patient with kind of combined health issues, he's just got so much on board, and quite a lot of rare kind of entities as well. When I've had conversations with like groups, for example, like Pfizer, and people that have been involved in the COVID, etc., and it kind of gets brushed to one side, that because he's not part of the regular or the normal community, etc., he doesn't kind of be part of the whole thing. And we mentioned Black, Asian, but we never get like Chinese or Thai people, or people that we never talk about regularly. It's always 1, 2, 3 into it straight away. And these communities need to be mentioned, and it's on the health side of it. I'm always bringing my son out to this equation and stuff. He's survived a tracheostomy now for like 16, 20 years, where a lot of people wouldn't have coped by now, sort of thing. So he's kind of rare in every single thing. So when we are talking about equality, diversity, and inclusion, he's just had the bat right hit off him, because he's not had an education with our local authority. He's just been, kind of scraped on the slate and everything, and we've had so much to do with that, and it just got us nowhere, really, because people are just saying the percentage of people that are disabled or whatever meeting targets, but he's out of that target. He's always out of that target, and because he's not in that normal disabled kind of situation. So there's a whole conversation here that we need to kind of have a standard for, really, so, and the rare entry bit is kind of pushed to one side, isn't it, really, sometimes, and it's really interesting to hear what people are saying. And thanks to Julie for the link. I will kind of find time. One thing I do also want to say from the early conversations, as Julie said, that communicating to people out there, getting the message across or saying that, hello, we're here, that sometimes is a hard thing to do as well, because it's getting hold of the variety of people. And then because once you do get hold of them people, it's communicating to them in their language, with no acronyms and no kind of complicated stuff. And that's where I think people kind of get stumbled as well. And that's where people, not like myself, because I persevere, but PPI people just kind of step back a bit, don't they? They get this document chucked at them like 20, 30 pages with no lay summary or no front page. And it's just, you know, it's just chucked at them, and it's just kind of a sad situation sometimes that they can help and they can contribute, and it's lost because it's kind of in this bubble thing, isn't it? That no one's not tried to ask them what language, what print form, what you know, how do you want it kind of presented to you, really, you know? And that sometimes does come to finance, doesn't it, as well? So that's really kind of a few things I picked up today, really.
Yeah, no, thanks for that, Mo. And I think, yeah, you definitely raised some good points in there. And I think historically, I think in terms of academics and researchers, they've always struggled to reach different communities. And a part of it might just be, you know, ignorance. Part of it might just be they don't know where to start. And I think sometimes with some communities, they've had really bad experiences of researchers just coming and going, and then you just don't know what's happened, you don't know what impact you've had, and then people can also shut down. So there's a whole variety of reasons. And I think your point around, well, actually we, you know, and it's the same point as everybody else is making, that everyone keeps going around in circles around these things. You know, what we're really keen on doing, we're not saying we're going to solve the problem, but what we want to do is just to start to get on the right road towards some sort of action that will eventually lead to some impact, because it's baby steps, you know, for us. It's okay, what the first point, I think, really, like you said, is about saying, hello, we're here, you know, ask us questions, which is one of the reasons why we set up this mechanism, these forums, so that people can come and talk to us about what's on their minds, and then we can see actually what's the best way to progress some of these discussions that have been had. You know, so for example, Hamid in the last one suggested, you know, sort of an appreciation type event or some PPI type day. So that's something that we're definitely going to look at. And I think your point around actually how do we target the right groups, how do we introduce ourselves, that is something that we definitely need to look at. And part of me is thinking, you know, we definitely probably could do with just having another one of these sessions, but that's actually just really focused on the EDI, where we'll look at, well, at the end of an hour or two, what do we want to have achieved by this particular bit, so that it becomes a bit more real, and then we're not just talking and going around in circles about that. So yeah, thank you for that contribution. CJ, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I think just on the inclusivity thing as well, you know, sitting here looking at a screen, you know, inclusion, how is that going to be for people who are visually impaired, who are hearing impaired, etc. as well? You know, I think we tend to think of you know, certain things, but actually it's really, really broad, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you know, digital exclusion as well. I mean, you know, wouldn't it be great if you were loaned a computer in order to complete your PPI work? Because actually we're all doing it on our own machines, you know, things might not be compatible, you know, you have all those sort of issues, and it's those kind of issues that make people give up, because they're going, oh, I can't do this because I need to edit this, and I can't do that, and I don't know how to do it. You know, you are asking for a certain level of technology savviness, and knowing how, you know, even doing things in the chat, you know, we've all learned how to do it. I had no idea about that, you know, when I started, before lockdown started. We've all learned so much, but actually what we've done is probably figured it out ourselves, rather than, you know, said, okay, we're now going to have a session that is going to enable you to do this. And similarly, when polls are taken. There are so many different polls that are used within events. And, you might be on, I don't know, Meta, you might be on this, you might be the other. And, actually it's all, where is the uniformity? Not saying everybody has to, but where's the best practice? Because if you are used to using one thing and then you go on to another forum and it is completely different, and you are therefore excluded from putting your points across because you can't engage with the system that's being employed, that's exclusion as well. So,
I think a good example is Haley, where, the computer doesn't like Zoom, and then she spent a good 10-15 minutes just trying to get the audio working. Imagine how that's going to be for someone actually who probably doesn't use a computer that much. You've got to download Zoom and figure. So I think digital exclusion, I think is definitely a big thing, because it even goes down to mobile phones, where I think everyone's expected to either own a high-end smartphone. But there's plenty of people that do not own smartphones and that do not want to own smartphones, so what do we do with that, or researchers that say, well, you can print off, they send you something via PDF or something. And I'm one of those people that likes to print things. Information just goes in better when I can see a piece of paper.
We know that, don't we, Hamid? We're big on printed.
Yeah, exactly. But then if you don't have a printer at home, what are you supposed to do? Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah, so definitely. And I mean, Haley's added in the chat, I wonder how big an impact feeling like you have received poorer care because of who you are has on PPI involvement. That's a very interesting question, Haley, actually. And you're saying, I'm thinking of maternal care and the much poorer outcomes for Black women. Yeah, definitely. And I think we're starting to see more companies that are starting. So we've got a startup that we're working with, and they're developing something for safer childbirth, but they have actually taken our advice on, and they're specifically going to be talking to actually women, Black women, because that's the initial group that we can get, but they actually want to expand it to other women as well, to actually say, what are your concerns around childbirth and the care, and they want to build that into the development. It's been a long road because that's taken 5 years of just trying to convince people you can go elsewhere. But I think, we're slowly starting to get the message across. It's not enough, but
it's really interesting. I was hospitalized with quite severe burns, and I'm part of a global burns research group, which is an international group, and that's really interesting. I have learned so much, and I've learned so much about different skin and how different skin reacts to burns and different burn treatments and things like that, and how burns treatment differs around the world, because obviously it's developed in research that is done within the groups that are predominantly there, but how little is actually shared. And that was really, really eye-opening for me, to listen to that. And you just think, why aren't people connecting? All these people are doing all these things and it's not connecting at all.
Yeah, no, and I think the learning is absolutely key. I think the thing most people take back is they actually learn a lot about a certain condition, and it's things you wouldn't learn in any other setting. It would be difficult to get that information.
I find it really interesting as well. I do quite a lot of work with women's health because I've had recurrent miscarriages and lots of other things, but there are never any men in those groups, and you might kind of go, well, that's right, men shouldn't be in there, but actually, really, actually we're all, and there may be items and things that women don't feel comfortable discussing, and that needs to be respected, but actually it's how you support people, isn't it? Actually, do I need to know if mental health affects men differently, even though it's the same diagnosis? Autism presents very differently in boys and girls. Actually, let's talk about things like that, because then you get a much rounder insight, I think.
Yeah, no, before I go to somebody else, that's an interesting, because there was an article out about how men were never asked how they felt after a miscarriage or a stillbirth. So all the women received the care and the men were just thrown to the side to go and deal with it. And yet all these comments from all these men saying, no one actually asked me how I was doing. nobody wanted to know, how that had affected me. And it was actually quite interesting to get those insights. But Cher, I know you've been listening because you were sort of working obviously in a formal capacity. I was just interested to know what your thoughts are on the discussion that's been going on, because obviously we're starting to go over time. So I just want to make sure you've had an opportunity to say what you're getting from this.
I think it was interesting to see the perspective from your end of things, like, because I'm mostly on the other side, if that's the way we're putting it. From our end, I've just started introducing the PPI concept in my research, but sometimes it's difficult to see which groups are already there, and it's good. I think it's good to have people like yourselves that have been involved in different groups and have experience in this, that can be like a middleman or woman, to help us gain access to people who really want to do this and gain access to different groups. Because in general, most of the time, we either go to groups that are already formed or also the clinics that are associated with the disease that we are looking at, which is good, but that can be quite limiting. And as you said, like, we leave people that maybe want to do this work and maybe want to contribute, but are very difficult to access. So I think there is a role also for yourselves, people that are experienced in this, to maybe facilitate this and also expose new people to PPI. I think that was something that I wanted to get out from this, and it was good to hear your perspective on it.
Okay, no, that's good to hear. And I mean, if you ever need any help, I mean, we do have lots of people in our groups that have got access to additional networks. And I think that's usually the starting point, is just access to a net, just speaking to a few people to start off with, and then the doors usually start opening slowly. So that's good to hear that you're getting something out of it, seeing as you're on the other side. And I hope it doesn't feel like everyone's attacking you for your lack of force.
I'm quite new to it, but that is one issue that crops up all the time. That's unfortunately sometimes, since it's easier to go to people that are already in the network, then people kind of get recycled in every project, and I don't think that's right. But obviously it's helpful to have someone with your kind of experience in groups, even just to lead the way and introduce people that are new to it and what it's all about. So I think it's really good that you are organizing these kinds of fora to help introduce PPI to people that might contribute eventually to PPI as well.
Okay, no, thank you very much. And I know we've spoken a lot about EDI today and inclusion, but I think all of that really also feeds into funding applications, because ideally what the funders should be doing is making sure that they're funding projects and things that are actually going to include as many people as possible and not be just exclusive. So there's definitely more of a focus now, I think we're starting to see with a lot of the funders, where they're starting to look at that. So I am aware that I'd scheduled this for an hour, which is not a problem if people want to talk. But I think what I'm keen to sort of find out, so that you can get a bit of your evening back, is if anyone has any. So I know there's on our action list, there's obviously something around having a wider event so people can actually talk more about this, and we can actually come up with some sort of action points around that. So that's definitely on the cards. And I was just wondering whether there was anything small, basically low-hanging fruit that we can think of, where we can sort of start to sort of slowly chip in at that, bearing in mind we're only one part of the NICHR, but we can share the learning with everybody else.
Though she be but little, she is fierce.
Sorry?
That Shakespeare quote. Both my girls are very tiny, and there's a Shakespeare quote that says, "Though she be but little, she is fierce," and that's how we have to see ourselves. We're fierce.
Yeah, That is a very good quote, actually. And thanks, Julie, for the link about reviews and readability checker. Definitely worth looking at that for those that aren't familiar. Manoj?
V, what I can do for this group in another meeting would be to explain that process of how to actually get accepted onto a funding panel, what they look for, kind of person that is ideal for them. I'll share my experience of how about 10 years ago, I got to the last 7. I got interviewed by 3 ladies, including a professor of dentistry who was the chair, and then I got rejected. They gave me very good feedback. Their advice was, we want to see evidence of PPI at local grassroots level first. A year later, they contacted me. I provided that evidence, and I had a 3-year term on the funding panel. And I can also another time discuss actually what goes on sitting on those funding panel, what's involved, what we have to do as public contributors. And as some of our colleagues have mentioned, the role of a co-applicant. So I'm a co-applicant in about 5 or 6 grant applications at the moment. So I can share my experience, including all the hassle of logging on to research methods, systems, and there's another one called Realms, which is even more difficult.
Oh yeah, Realms.
Realm is a nightmare.
Yeah. No, that would be brilliant, Manoj. Could I ask that you write that in an email for me because I'll forget. Yeah, but if you write that in an email, I think that would be great, and then we can actually put on a special session for that, because I know, if people want things to be more inclusive, quite rightly, they need to be getting in on those funding panels, because they're the ones that ultimately shape the projects that are funded and what's coming through. And I think having that insight would be immensely useful as well. So thank you very much for that.
Can I also add, without frightening any of my colleagues and peers off? So I have sat on 3 different NICE committees in the past. And the last one I applied to, I got rejected. And the feedback was, we receive at least 15 applications for every place. So even the PPI world, to get onto a funding panel or NICE committee, etc., it's becoming increasingly difficult to get on. It's a very competitive world. So if you get rejected, do not take it personally. Just put it to one side, and 3 days later, start on another application.
Yeah.
Do you know, that's really timely advice, Manoj, because I got an email from an organization, and was exactly that. And you just kind of want to go, how much more qualified could I be to do this work? I absolutely fit every box. And yeah, you're right, it is that kind of like, whoa, this isn't actually personal. But it takes time to be good at this. So if you are putting together an email that explains why you think that you would be a good fit for this, you take the time, you write your email, you really include all the information, and they do take a long time to do it if you're doing it properly. And actually, if you were sitting there in a paid position, you were being paid to do that job, because that would be in your salary, but we aren't salaried. So actually those kind of things we are doing, and it's eating into time that is our own time. And similarly, if it takes you 10 hours to do something that a researcher thinks would only take an hour, actually, because you've got to look up things, you've got to make sure you understand things, all that kind of stuff. I think there's real benefit in people to actually think what it is you're looking for, and to allow for the time. And I know, it will be a discussion point at some point along here, about reimbursement for time. I personally don't do reimbursement for time, but my God, last night at 12:30, when I was still sitting there swearing at Realms, I was just thinking, I'm not even being paid to do this. Everybody else that is involved with this is salaried. I'm the only one that's not, and yet I'm the one that is pulling my hair out at midnight. So there's all that kind of support again, isn't there, really?
Yeah. We can talk about a reimbursement all day, so we'll leave that for now, and I'll let Hamid come in. He's had his hand up. Hamid.
Pete, can I give a good tip on that respect, what our colleague CJ has just said?
Okay,
so
quickly,
I
and then Hamid will come in.
for the week before, I got a request from an academic to review a document, and they said, we're allowing for 1 hour, so £25. I looked at the size of the document and I politely sent it back and said, I'm happy to do this, but this represents 3 to 4 hours work. I'll leave it with you. So if they then say, fine, we're going to pay for 3 hours work, I'll do it. But I'm not going to do it for 1 hour.
I think, Manoj, I like what you said. Sometimes it's about having, I think it's about building, as I think there's things that we can get done on a standard policy basis, but there's some things that are also about having that strong relationships and that open, transparent communications about what would work and what doesn't work. And usually, you know, we forget that people on the other side are also human beings, and they are also probably going through a learning curve like sometimes we are. So it's about having the communication open and saying, you know, this is going to take me longer because I'm in a scenario where if somebody sends me long documents, I can't read them while I'm caring for my mom. I have to do it at a time when she's either asleep or a little, but then it's like 10 o'clock at night, I'm exhausted. So it's about having protected time to do things so effectively and as best as possible. So I think where I'm going with this is to keep it simple and to the point is that, you know, it's about knowing and acknowledging that one way doesn't work and one thing may not be suitable for somebody but might be suitable for somebody else. Like in my culture, if you put on an event and you don't put on hot food and you expect people to be there for a day, they're not going to be happy about it. You need to put hot food on. And I know in some cultures, you know, they're okay. It's not about having a nice food, it's about having a nice venue. My culture is like, we'll have a basic venue, but make sure you feed me well because I'm not sitting all day doing work when I'm not having hot food. So it's about ensuring that when we do these things, that we use as many inclusive approaches as possible than exclusive approaches, but not try to say one is better than the other, or this is just about saying, hey, this works for some and it doesn't. So let's try to work a balance that works for both. And that's the way I would do it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's like a menu, isn't it? And then you can pick and choose the things that are suitable for you.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I like that concept. And I mean, we will be calling on you in terms of sort of how we can do that better. Because obviously I get your point. I mean, even I choose events based on whether there's hot food or not. If it's cold food, it's like, nah, it's not really high priority. You've got to be serving some hot food and a dessert for me to get in there.
And why
it's almost worse if you go somewhere
I think,
and then
you said a good point there, because truth is wise, as PPI members, if we ask for something, it's seen as being, oh, they're expecting too much. I've known people on high salaries on 100 grand a year, psychiatrists and doctors that would not turn up to even a 2-hour meeting over lunch if hot lunch is not provided. So I'm going to stand up and say that, you know, for some people, they might be diabetic, they might have cultural needs, religious needs, and these things are really important because in some cultures, food is a way of welcoming people, and that's something we need to be mindful of. And, you know, by taking an approach and say, oh, yeah, you know, we'll just put on cheese sandwiches and that should suit everyone. I'm sorry, diversity has failed as soon as you think like that. So diversity means looking at a variety of approaches and not just one size fits all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I think Hayley is agreeing with that as well. It's a clear indication on how valued you are sometimes. And I absolutely agree with that 100%.
Just to add to that, Fee, as well, it's feeling valued that is really important. So an email that says, thank you very much, you know, we really appreciate your input or something is a real, you know, it's a real cup filler, isn't it? You feel valued even if somebody just thanks you for that. And the other thing I always think is really nice is this actually if they let you know the results of any research that's gone on because you've been part of it and then suddenly you're discarded. You know, it's like eating an orange and chucking the peel away. It's like, well, we had to have you, but now you're not part of it. You know, how nice to actually be included in communications, you know, throughout.
No, and I think that's something that we're looking to do more of because and I know I will wrap this up, but when I used to work for the bits that looked after the pharmaceutical trials with the NIHR, one particular company was actually very good at it. So when they'd actually finished their clinical trials and testing their drugs, they'd invite all the participants back. And they would actually and they were very culturally sensitive. This was in Bradford. And they would sort of put on a lunch for them, and they'll actually go through the trial results and say, well, this is what we actually found from the work that we did with you. And this is how it's actually helped us develop this particular drug. And this is how it's going to help get it into the NHS. And for those that are familiar with double-blind trials, where you basically take a placebo, you don't know what you're taking, and some take the actual study drug, they would then actually tell you, individual people, this is what you were on, and this is what your blood sugar results were, this is how your cardiac results were. So patients actually got a very personalized health report based on their participation in the trial, and people absolutely loved it. You'd get friends, neighbors, cousins, grandmas, grandpas, everyone would actually come to these events because they learned a lot about what this company was testing. So obviously, in terms of medtech, there's a very, 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 very long way to go with that. But we want to start building those inroads for that point that you mentioned, CJ, that you feel discarded. They get their points and then, they disappear. You never hear from them. So yeah, that's something we definitely want to look at reviving for the medtech bit. As much as I'd love to stay here and talk to you, and I'm sure most of you could probably stay for another hour, I would probably need to release you and let you go and have an evening. I also have a little person here who keeps threatening to come on screen. You can hear her laughing. Yeah, but I would like to thank you all for your input. I will be sharing the link to the video, but if you need to email or if you've got any other thoughts that have come up, then please send that to me on the email address that I will send out. But we'll have another one. Well, actually, the session for October, I might not be able to do it. Someone might be able to do that because I'm actually away then. But if not, I'll probably see you in the November one. But definitely keep the ideas coming, because what we want to do is actually not have a token sort of PPI involvement. We don't want to just tick the box. We actually want to do things and make sure that both parties are feeling good about it at the other end, because it's not good to do things as a tick. Even for us, it's not good because you don't feel good about it.
We touched upon last time that we were thinking that it would be nice if we do at some point one event where we all come together face to face and really spend a bit more longer time and get to know each other. I mean, that would be really nice to, maybe not now, but maybe in the future we can discuss it as a group. Yeah. And I mean, what I'll do is I'll put that out in the email that I'll send out tomorrow with the link. And then I think those that want also interested in discussing those ideas, then we can actually just have a separate forum for that. And then we can actually work through that and then do that. That's a good plan. That's a good plan. Yeah. Okay, does anyone have any last parting shots before I let you go? Julie, you okay? Nothing? Manoj?
No.
No? Mo?
Great session.
Haley? I think you'll be good.
Nothing to add.
Yeah, so, and CJ, sorry, almost forgot you there.
Yeah, no. I thought it was a really good session, really supportive, and everybody, really supportive community. So thanks, everybody.
Okay. So once again, thank you very much for your time. I will send you an email tomorrow with just some few key links. So if you want to watch this over again or read some of the transcript notes, then you can. And I will also put in the date for the next sessions, and then we can register for those if you haven't done so already. And yeah, I'd like to wish you a very pleasant evening and rest of the week, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.